Welcome to 39-Minute Conversations. Please wait for your host to begin this meeting. Your meeting is now being recorded.
Hey, you there? Can you hear me? Connecting to audio, it says. So you'll be joining us in a moment. There
What's
he
up?
is. Hey, man.
Sorry I'm late. I apologize. Love your
It's not-
hoodie.
Thanks, buddy. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, man. What is this endeavor you're doing?
This is a podcast, and we'll get into that. But the first thing that I have to do before we actually get into it is the first ad read. Then I can actually introduce you and introduce what the podcast is. What?
Nothing. Keep going.
Okay, great. Listener, look around you right now. Look at your apartment or your house, the cracking faded paint, the too small bathroom, the same walls looking back at you every second of every day, your neighborhood's utter lack of fried seafood and putt-putt courses. Maybe it's time you considered relocating to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Enjoy beautiful beaches, amazing weather, nightlife, restaurants, and both miniature and regular-sized golf courses. If Myrtle Beach living sounds right for you, I know just the realtor to call. Tim Arnold has been serving the Grand Strand for 10 years, and no one knows the Low Country better. From Polly's Island to Cherry Grove, Tim Arnold will find a home that's perfect for you because Tim Arnold knows there's nowhere finer than South Carolina. To get started on your search for your Myrtle Beach dream house, email timbeachrealtor@gmail.com. That's timbeachrealtor@gmail.com. Absolutely wild that we have a sponsor already on the second episode from just a completely random listener who loves what we're doing here. So thank you, Tim Arnold, for listening to the show. And please say hi to Mom for me. I love you both and miss you. Hello, I'm Brian T. Arnold. Welcome to 39-Minute Conversations, a podcast about reconnecting with old friends and making new friends. We've only got 39 minutes to do it because I am not paying for Zoom Pro. You may know my guest today from his live sketch comedy at the CBS Diversity Comedy Showcase, Second City, Chicago, and Asian AF. Maybe you know him from his appearance on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend or as a host of the series Family Style, a show that brings foodies together and their famous friends to explore Asian food with a steamy side of hot topic commentary. Maybe you know him from his very successful podcast, TigerBelly. He is slumming it on my podcast today, and I am very grateful. Gilbert Galon, hello.
Troy and Abed in the morning. What's the song?
Troy and Abed in the morning. That is the
There
mug
you go.
that I'm drinking out of right now. Is a Troy and
Dude,
Abed in the morning mug.
Shout out to Papa Arnold, huh? Is that a real sponsor or is that a bit?
So in episode 1, I explained that I don't have sponsors yet. It is, but I want them. So I'm trying to do my own ad copy to show sponsors that yes, I'll play ball. Dress for the job that you want, not the job that you have. And Tim Arnold just happened to reach out to me and say, "Hey, why don't you just use me as an advertiser?"
Damn, that's crazy. And he's paying probably $1,000 an ad. So
I think that's probably the rate. He and I didn't discuss rates, but now he's heard it, and I think he's going to have to agree to that.
I love it. Brian, this is fantastic. I just love I'm just like my first question is one, I didn't know it was a second guess. That's crazy. Was it first? Let me guess. It was your first guess, Dennis.
Yeah, my first guess was Dennis.
I knew. I didn't even look at anything. I just assumed probably Dennis because he doesn't live with you anymore. So that's why I assumed that. But
He doesn't, but he lives a block away. He and I still out of everybody, I talk to him the most, and he's still he's a comedian. This isn't his episode. We don't have to talk about Dennis. It was just
this is Dennis part 2. I actually don't know a lot about Dennis except you would always say great roommate, but also that guy just in his room editing nonstop for 5 years. That's all I know about Dennis. He just edits.
He also writes, he directs, and then when he edits a movie, he edits it until it's done, and sometimes that's a while.
3 years. Yeah.
Dennis, I love you. I'm not roasting you.
So tell me first before we get into it.
Yeah.
Podcast. Brian T. Arnold doing a podcast.
Uh-huh.
Why?
Why? That's a good question. I thought a lot about, in these last 2.5, 3 years, I have been, I've been writing, which I was used to doing before this. So I was always used to like periods of like, oh yeah, I work alone. I'm alone in a room a lot, but I always
Yeah.
had, I had these other activities and other outlets. I would do improv and sketch and all those things, like opportunities to be performative, and that's where my social circle was. And I'm still not quite back out into the world as much as a
Yeah.
lot of people are. So this felt like a fun way to reconnect with people and do something creative that is actually like instant feedback versus writing where it's
Waiting
6
for
months to a year later you maybe hear something.
yay. Yeah, that is, yeah, I would describe you as, you know what, you're definitely an extrovert. I wouldn't even say you're even really an introvert. I would say that's why it is interesting, because like, yeah, I do remember you being very social, like at least wanting to go out after stuff. Or I feel like I'm very much like, I'm good.
Oh yeah,
Peace.
I was dragging you to like the bars after comedy shows and stuff. Like I was always very excited to hang out with people. I am an extrovert, so this I do think like I needed to recharge. I was like an introverted extrovert, like I needed to go. Okay, that was great. I had fun with a bunch of people. Now let me go hide in my room. And now I'm hiding in my room without seeing anybody, and I'm
But now you
missing that
wanna,
side of it. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I got you to come out that one time. That was great.
you
When you
did.
came out to my place and we played guitar and we played old songs.
We did. You were one of the very few people that I've hung out with indoors and maskless during this whole thing, because, well, it was at that brief window, like in summer 2021,
before December. Yeah.
Before the new
Omicron?
variant started coming, and back when I had a lot of hope and like, oh yeah, things will be better, and then they went back to what they are now. But you and I have lived very different experiences during this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying,
yeah, definitely yes, but also I've definitely worked with people that are probably are similar to you about the whole thing, in terms of like, we're very conscious, especially with TigerBelly. Kalila was definitely, we had like a shield. We were the only podcast with a shield up, which I guess was funny, but people are like, you're going to piss off the people you piss off on the internet. Also make people on the internet that are like excited about that. And like, yeah. So it's everything gets politicized, even in
for
comedy
sure.
podcasts.
And
but
all
yeah,
because of
question.
What?
Yeah, continue your question. Yes, I did have, my experience was Asian. Yours was not. Go ahead.
Okay. But so these last 2.5, 3 years, I'm not saying you're not cautious, because I'm sure you take precautions, and I'm sure you're as careful as can be, but you've been traveling a lot and working all over the place, and you've got a Band-Aid on your arm from from a new booster.
No, from a shooting. Can we talk about the shooting? Can we talk about the Can we talk about the Migos shooting? How stupid that is? Did you follow any of that?
I don't know enough about what happened. I saw that he unfortunately passed away, but I didn't.
It's sad.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
It's so crazy. I was listening to this really great guys I love. These YouTubers are called Abba and Preach. These two black commentators, like social, political, culture, mostly culture, comedians / commentators from Toronto. I heard about it, but Takeoff and Migos or Takeoff and Quavo are part of the group Migos.
Right.
That kind of, I forgot what that type of music is, that specific hip hop, but very popular. Takeoff passed away from basically a random shooting when they were playing dice in the after hours of a bar. Yeah. And basically people are just talking about how stupid it is, because like, the whole thing with people are just speaking up how stupid it is, because basically it was just dudes like fighting each other with guns, and it's like one of his own people accidentally shot him in the neck. That's crazy.
Jeez.
So it's just like, can we not do that?
Yeah, it would be great if we just didn't shoot
Can we play
each
dice?
other? Yeah.
Can we play dice and not flex? Like, it's like, think about us. We're in a fantasy league for basketball, which I don't.
Yes,
are you
very
doing
important to talk about. No,
it's like if I was like, Brian, oh shit, I dropped one of my players and you took them. You took Halliburton, I dropped them, and then you fronted me just to scare me with the gun. I'm like, don't do that. I'll give you Halliburton back, which we did, and we will not be doing that this season.
Okay, last season last season I accidentally dropped a player. It was not intentional. It was a wrong button press and somebody else grabbed him and I was like, oh darn. And I told Gilbert that it happened. And then I was not going to make a stink about getting him back. But once I said it had happened, he was like, okay, let's make it work. Let's get him back on your team. And so we talked to the other guy. I came off as probably very whiny and entitled, but it was not my intent.
It was, and you still didn't win.
No, but, Tyrese Halliburton didn't turn out to be the X factor that I needed. And that's why I drafted him again this year.
I do very early. I do want to touch on that a bit, that I never really played fantasy up until that point. And it's fun.
It's so
for
fun.
all the people there being like, oh, it's stupid, it's a lot of work. Yeah, it's really not a lot of work. If anything, it's also cool to like chat with old friends, like I guess like what you're doing with this podcast, but also just keep connected in some kind of thread where we all just love basketball. And it's just fun and it's silly. And it's just, I don't know. Fantasy has a bad rap. And I think
does it?
Because it's like,
does it have a bad rap?
With women. And their husbands.
So this 100% is coming from Cindy of like, you nerd, what are you doing?
Who cares about Tyrese Maxey not scoring 40 points?
Oh, you got Maxey? I wanted Maxey.
No, I think EJ grabbed him. But
okay.
But yeah, I thought that was fun. I think that was cool because I realized how much people wanted to keep doing it. I was like, oh, no one really cared for that. A couple people didn't even play, and people were bitching and whining all last year about the rule set and like players. Then I realized when I had to drop everyone from the league and then to reset something, everyone started hitting me up like, oh, was I kicked out of the league? Can I jump back in? I was like, oh, people want to do this. This is great.
I'm glad I'm not the only person who messaged you about that because I felt very like, oh, am I out of the league? Like,
you were the only person. You fell for that, Brian. You were the only person.
Stop setting traps for me.
You're very good at escaping them, though. You're like a little Houdini. You're a little T. Arnold, BTA Houdini. But yeah, what I want to say, this is exciting. Congratulations on your podcast.
Oh, thanks, man.
This is fun. Hey, another white guy on a mic. You can take it two ways. Yep. Which way you gonna go? You gonna start an insurrection, or you gonna which way? Which direction are we going?
You know, I'm gonna let the audience decide. I've tried not to have strong opinions or beliefs until I see what other people want me to be, and then I just kind of form into that.
Guys, Brian will be leading the next insurrection. You heard it here first.
Is it an
insurrection of love?
Is it an insurrection, or is it just standing up for what you believe in? You know, that's.
I like this guy. This guy's speaking the truth on the mic. More people got to speak about that. Yeah, that. I was thinking about the idea of you starting an insurrection is very ridiculous. Almost like it could be a sitcom. I love the idea. Honestly, can we write this? Can we do a pitch? Can this be a video pitch session?
Yeah.
Can you write a comedy on not the insurrection, but a insurrection? And a guy really just he ends up finding a community, and then they realize, let's not do that. But they're already full force in it with a bunch of other people, but they're trying to get their way out of an insurrection. And I want you to be casted in that as the lead.
Oh, man.
Think about that.
I would be fun. I don't think I have the gravitas to make people follow me. It's not.
That's why it's funny. Okay, maybe you're not the lead. You're the co-lead.
I think I would have to be like, I think I would need somebody like you who's charismatic.
Sterling K. Brown and you, Brian T. Arnold, Sterling K. Brown.
My name obviously comes first. And yeah, I think I would be sort of Sterling K. Brown would be the leader, the charismatic, like everybody follows, and I'm the guy walking behind him with a clipboard, you know, like, I think our numbers are real good. I think we got a shot at this. Like that's me. That's how I come across on screen.
Speaking of that voice, I feel like that's always a topic of conversation when I talk to people. Ask me like, how's Brian? Or people are like, oh yeah, Brian, blah blah blah. I'm like, and then everyone does the hey buddy or da 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 da. You branded yourself that comedically. Did you not?
Here's the truth about that.
What's the story? Tell me what. Yeah, give me the lowdown.
So I do there were, you know, in the crowd that I hung out with, me and Gilbert, there was an impression of me that was thrown around willy-nilly. People really seemed to respond to it and take to it. and it
Liked it actually. Became
liked it.
popular.
It became very popular among and very hurtful to me. It became.
I'm so sorry. I didn't know that.
It's not, but it was just the simple like, "Hey, buddy, how's it going?" Like, "Hey, buddy, hey, buddy." And I will tell you,
always normally do that.
I
Sometimes
do.
you're like, "Hey, what's up?" Or you're like, "Hey, man," or "Hey, buddy."
I
But just
do.
sometimes you would choose the inflection. I don't know how you choose it. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I don't know. It's not like a. It's not like a. I think I'm gonna go high pitch today. It's just a. It's just however. It's not a thing I plan. It's just a thing that it comes out how it comes out. And the reason I do that, and this is gonna make me sound like a crazy person because I am one. I have a phobia of calling people by the wrong name, especially like so even somebody that like if I know somebody well enough that I know their name, and I even if I'm like 99% or even 100, there's a piece of doubt in me that's still like, don't say the wrong. That's gonna just be a mess.
Yep.
So I call everybody, buddy, pal, hey man, what's up? It's just so it doesn't stand out when I do it to somebody whose name I'm not 100% sure about.
You know what? I think I share honestly a similar fear in that because I feel like when I meet people sometimes it's so, like I guess in our industry or just sometimes you're just doing so much stuff. You just meet people. You actually are trying to be intentional. You look in the eye. You say, "Oh, hey, I'm Gilbert and you're nice to meet you." I'll even repeat the name, but my ADD brain sometimes will just not store it. And I'll either do a dyslexic version of that or I'll just not know.
Yep.
So part of that is, and I feel fearful to even just to like reintroduce myself, or I know the name, but I know I'm pronouncing it wrong. Like shout out to my boy Kwesi. He's a BuzzFeed director for the Try Guys. Try Guys. And
this
I'm working
so
with him
topical.
right now.
This is such a topical episode.
Try Guys. We just hit this will age not well in 2027. None of this stuff makes any sense. But I remember I said his name like Kwesi, like Casey. I said Casey instead of Kwesi. Like crazy. And then I just started getting so self-conscious of saying his name because I never met him in person. Everything's been on Zoom. So I got so self-conscious where I would just start saying that our dope director, my guy, or like, I was like, what am I doing? I'm just like a hype man in a rap video. I wasn't even saying his name. And I realized like, I just got to ask it. So I just basically said, this is so stupid. I'm literally manipulating my conversation out of fear. I was like, hey dude, I don't know how to say your name. How do you say it again? So my new thing now is I'll just ask people over and over. And if they go like, oh, you don't remember my name? I'm like, I don't. I'm so sorry. It's not you. I'm just forgetful. Because it is interesting how we both operate in that kind of like, I don't want to say your name wrong, but it's like, I mean, I'm sure people get our name.
I don't mind when somebody doesn't remember me. I assume I'm unmemorable.
Same. See, we don't care. We don't.
Right.
But see how we don't care, but we care. We think they care way more.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure there are some people who do, but like, even like among my friends, like if there's somebody who like is on the periphery of the friend group who I've met a bunch of times, I always do the hey buddy to them. And so then but if I've done it with everybody else in the group, it's not weird. It's not weird that that's how I'm talking to that person. But actually I had an improv teacher, Miles Stroth, who was talking about how to improve your memory and whatnot. And he was talking. This was the pack before it was the pack. It was when it was still called the Miles Stroth Workshop. Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
And he said that when he used to be terrible at names until he realized what he was doing when somebody introduced themselves to him. He was not listening. He was just waiting to say his own name, which I think is something that I definitely do. And now I'm aware of it, but I've changed the behavior in 0 ways. I'm still waiting just to say my name.
So wait, okay. So then the fix then would be when we introduce ourselves, we don't even say our name. We just like, hey, nice to meet you. What's your name? That would be like the initial thing, and then repeat it. So let me try this exercise.
Okay, let's try it.
Be like,
let's do a scene.
Hey, nice to meet you. What's your name?
We have met 6 times.
Oh, you're so.
I am rewind. I thought
it was the first time. I thought it was the first time.
I am the
I'm your father.
I am the godfather to your son.
I'll be honest. I'm so sorry. What was your name again?
Oh, it's Brian.
Brian.
Yeah.
Brian.
Yeah.
Gilbert. So here's the way. That just reminded me this one comedian, Rick Glassman, and it's the way how he remembers people's names. He'll go. He said, say the person's once they say it 3 times. So say Brian as a statement, like Brian, and then ask a question mark, Brian, and then do the third one like a oh duh. Brian. So you go like Brian. Anyways, so I think me and you should commit to that.
Okay.
It's sort of a bit, but I think if we
Mhm.
start doing that, it might create a new culture of people like, hey, Gilbert and Brian keep doing this thing. Is that weird? Have they talked about this? And we just never address it.
We never
becomes
address
our
it.
thing.
If I ever meet somebody again, I will definitely remember to do that.
I'd like to see you try that. My name is
Okay.
Jonathan.
Jonathan. I
That
messed
last
it
one,
up.
bro.
I messed
That
it up.
was so.
I messed it
Hey,
up.
that's on camera. Do not edit that out. That was fucking wild. What you just did. That was crazy. The last one. It's like you had your most favorite food, and then you rolled your eyes so high.
Jonathan. Yeah.
Try one more time. Statement.
Statement. Question. Statement.
Question. Throw away. Like, oh my god, I'm so silly.
Okay. Got it.
I'm so silly. That's the vibe. There we go.
Okay.
Hey, I'm Jonathan.
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 There we go.
Opposite. Not good.
Not good, but
I didn't do
it's
your.
there.
I did my own. I put my spin on it.
And isn't that all we can do is just put our own spin on it?
That's all that matters. One thing that I want to get in. I
Get into it. Do you have questions?
Of course I have questions, but we're just
I'm actually curious what your questions are because I'm like,
we're gonna blow right through them though. It seems like this morning I was making my cup of tea, and my tea bag had has an inspiring message on the tag.
what tea is that?
It is Yogi.
Yogi. This episode 2 is brought to you by Yogi. Brian T. Arnold has an amazing new podcast, and you can be a sponsor here. Use the promo code
39-minute combos. Gilbert, this tea tag thing says, never regret your mistakes, admire the courage it took to attempt the unknown. You attempted the unknown. You're from Atlanta, did comedy in Chicago before finding yourself here. This tea is leading me to this question. Let's talk about your journey and how you ended up in LA and where you are now, and how you decided to give this life a shot. Let's just go through your history a little bit.
All right, before I get into it, I have to comment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not calling you out. It's
No,
not
call
me
me out.
This is not me hyper observing.
No,
I started laughing because you started speaking that way. That whole yogi message sounded very Confucius to say. And then you started talking a certain way, and your eyes started squinting. And I was like, I know Brian doesn't do those bits, but I wanted him to push it harder. And I was like, you take the risk, you take the courage comedically, and push it. Because you're like, that sometimes the courage told me.
That is not what I did.
That is what you did.
First
on
of
camera,
all,
you said we don't edit.
No.
You said we don't edit on here.
We're not editing this out, but it is an audio medium. Nobody would have known that when I was thinking about what to say next that I squinted, not out of caricature, but out of thought. Unrelated.
Oh my god.
Your whole thing is calling people out and trying to get them in trouble. That's what your personality is based on.
It's not, guys. I'm joking. For audio listeners, this is also on video, right? This is going to be on YouTube. Or what?
I don't release the video, just the audio.
You're not going to release the video of this? This is great. Our faces.
Okay, maybe I will. Maybe I'll put some clips.
Or at least do social media clips. Social media clips
might be a good idea.
I'm gonna talk to you about promoting your podcast after this.
This is what I really wanted. You are slumming it on a podcast where I can't afford an editor, so I have to do my ad reads in the middle of it. I can't afford Zoom Pro, so it's short. I'm gonna need you to really guide me. I'm gonna
gift you. I'm gonna say it right now. I'm gonna gift you. When is your birthday again? Well, last time I got you a vegan cookbook. When's your birthday? July. I missed it. I didn't get you anything. I'm going to gift you a year of Adobe Audition or something so you can practice editing.
No, I have Final Cut. I edit.
You have Final Cut. So you can edit. So someone's lying.
Oh, I can edit, but that's that's what this podcast is, man. It's unedited, unfiltered,
laziness.
39-minute conversation that is laziness. Has the best inventions come from laziness.
Okay.
Bifocals.
I think I can buy it.
Let's talk about it. Remote controls, bifocals. I don't want to have to switch my glasses all the time. The lazy Susan. Don't get up to pass something at the table. Turn it on, spin it. Laziness is the mother of invention.
Yeah, audience, quote Brian on that. I actually don't disagree with that entirely. I think that is very valid points. Anyway, sorry for interrupting that question. Very good question. I just thought it was funny because honestly, that yogi thing. Now think about what I was saying. And the way that yogi thing is written, and you were squinting, and if you really wanted to push it comedically, it could have gone that way. Could it have not?
Sure. If
Could
this
it
were
have not?
if this were a 1986 podcast,
Podcast,
absolutely.
1986?
Yeah,
Yeah.
a 1986 podcast.
39 minutes with Charlie Chan featuring Brian T. Arnold.
Oh my god.
Okay, so where are we starting?
Let's start in Atlanta. Let's start in Atlanta and how you decided this is what you wanted to do, and then what that journey looked like for you.
Cool. How much do you know my story? Bits and pieces, right?
I think I know a good chunk, but you know who doesn't? Our listeners.
Nice. Okay. Hello, listeners. Do you have a name for them yet?
Convos.
All right, Convo's Army. Yeah, so born in Chicago. That's where the immigration hub for my family was. Grandparents Filipino. They moved to Chicago, and that's how they started bringing all the uncles and aunts. That's where my mom grew up when she moved from the Philippines. And then around 95, my dad and my immediate family, sister, who you know very well, Gabby, hashtag did not draft Trey Young, even though way too weird. Just have fun once in a while. And my mom, we moved to Atlanta in 95, I believe, 94 and 95, right before the 96 Olympics, before Atlanta became Atlanta. So I grew up there. All my schooling was in Atlanta or suburbs of Atlanta. And then around college, I think I started actually took an acting. Yeah. Out of college, I went to school in North Carolina, and I dropped out of there probably a year and a half in. It was actually probably one of like the darkest, I would say at that age, at that moment, probably one of the darkest points in my life, mostly because not out of like, I'm like dropping out of school because I'm flunking all my classes. I was basically just playing video games all the time. I just was never a studious kid. I couldn't focus on any of the material or any of the stuff that I was studying down. I just didn't care, honestly.
Sure.
And I think most of the fear why that was so dark is one, like a lot of people not knowing what you want to do in life, or maybe you do know, you have an idea of what you want to do, but you feel like I can't do it. It's too risky. It's too scary. It was a lot of fear-driven decisions on why like I was carrying all this like heaviness when I dropped out. Most of that was the fear of mostly my mom, my parents, kind of like the disappointment, like, obviously Asian parents, typical, like, not even Asian, I think a lot of parents in general, but maybe a little hint of the immigrant parent where it was like very taught to like you school and that's it. Go to school, get a job, and then do whatever you want after. And I just could not figure out school. And I know I had an interest like in the arts, specifically like just entertainment. I think a little bit was like wanting to be in movies, like everyone else, movies, TV. At that time, kind of want to be famous a bit, little that famous clout chasing, type of stuff. And then, I dropped out of school. Mom wasn't happy with that. I wasn't happy with it. I was just so scared, but awesome mom where she couldn't understand where I was coming from. So there wasn't this great disappointment or like thing that was going to happen. She was disappointed, but also was very supportive when I dropped out. She's like, well, you need to get back into school here in Atlanta. So jump into community college. So in community college, I started taking random, I don't know if you know this, I started doing like extra work in Atlanta. So the first movie I ever did in Atlanta was, I don't even know why it's on my IMDb, but the one with Zach Galifianakis and Robert Downey Jr.
Dude.
Wow. Did you look that up or did you know?
I just know. I saw that movie in theaters. It was
name a movie with sidetrack. I want to just test Brian real quick. Name a movie. I want to see your movie knowledge. Name a movie with Daniel Craig that's not James Bond. 5, 4,
Knives
3,
Out.
2.
Layer Cake.
Cool.
Logan Lucky.
Name 3 Edgar Wright films. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You fucking the Cornetto trilogy. The Cornetto trilogy. That's all 3. Real fast. You can't go that. It's too fast. Continue with your story.
All right. Well, name a Steven Spielberg. Name a Steven Spielberg film after 2005. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah, it was 2006. Yeah, that was good. Anyways, yeah, you're really good. You're really good. What was I? Oh yeah.
Extra work,
I was doing extra work. That was fun. I was like, oh, I'm in a movie set. I would even tell movie like this is how gross. I would tell like friends from like community culture. Oh yeah, I'm doing movies. Like, God, it's so cringe now. So much cringe stuff in my life. Like I'm doing movies. I kind of learned how the set world worked. I just kind of love being on set. No acting skills or anything. And I decided to join an acting class in Atlanta. So a lot of people think I feel like I tell a lot of people I started in Chicago because I feel that's where I really started. But I actually took my first acting class in as an adult in Atlanta.
I don't tell everybody that my first improv class was in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, but it was.
But you probably tell people like, oh, UCB, LA.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
That's exactly. I knew that about Myrtle Beach, California, or Myrtle Beach. Remember, yeah, don't you still talk to people from that improv class?
Not so
Or a
much.
friend?
Not so much. I moved out
Oh,
here to LA with somebody from that improv class, and then he left not
and
long
he
after.
immediately bounced. Yeah.
Within
Okay.
like 4 months, yeah, he was gone.
Yeah, some people don't have it. Sorry, buddy. But yeah, took a acting class, loved it, kept doing extra work. And then I think that kind of like the bug was kind of there. And then I eventually just told my parents, I was like, in my mind, I was like, I need to move. I need to figure out, how do I do this? Like, I don't want to be in Atlanta. I feel like the market's small. Keep in mind, this is before literally Walking Dead came to Atlanta and everything blew up and Marvel started shooting there. So this is like the amount of like Cat Williams and Tyler Perry extra work I did. It was pretty silly. As like always like IT guy or like butler for some weird reason.
What were you a butler in?
I think Cat Williams movie is like me, but it was like, yeah, it was weird. It was like a couple of Asian guys were like random butlers.
Okay.
Now could be problematic, not sure. And then we walk into a room, there's a bunch of women in lingerie, like literally 12, like 15 women on a bed in lingerie, and Cat Williams like in his pimp. I think this is the height of Cat Williams. He was like in his pimp clothes, like just sitting there, and us are just members of his staff, basically.
All right.
Weird. Don't know what movie that is. But I was doing that, had the bug, and then eventually I decided I gotta tell my parents, like, I don't want to, like, I really want to drop out of community college now and just focus on acting and move to Los Angeles. But then I thought about it. I was like, okay, where did the people that I like at that time, how did they get into this business? I don't want to go back to school. I don't want to go to theater school. It's not for me. Like, I can do these acting classes here, but I don't know if there's any notoriety in these programs in Atlanta. So I saw, I think I just started doing research on people, how they got into the business, and like, I loved Steve Carell at that time. I think one of my favorite movies is 40-Year-Old Virgin. Just loved that. And then I think at that time he was also doing bigger stuff and more, I guess, getting more serious stuff. And same thing with Amy Poehler, I think. And I looked at like, how did they start? And a common thread was Chicago, Second City. And then everyone was also IO, but I didn't really know too much about that side of it. Just knew improv, comedy, Second City, Chicago. That might be an easy way in because I already have a family in Chicago. And my parents would feel comfortable with that. So I did a whole PowerPoint presentation on
that's adorable.
Saw an article about Emma Stone doing this with her mom when she was in high school to basically drop out of high school. So her mom would move with her to LA and basically start an acting career. I was like, wow, her mom received that well. It was this plain out thing. I decided, let me do that with my parents.
You're basically Emma Stone.
Yeah, let me be a white child asking her white hippie mother, can I move to LA to be an actor, drop out of high school? Except I'm saying, can I do that in college? So I decided to take my parents. I didn't print out. I actually made a PowerPoint, but just did more like I print out all the papers because I didn't have a laptop. I decided to take them to a restaurant and do it just out of fear. Like if I did it at my home, that could be physical. So let me do it in a public place where the anger would be controlled by their shame, their Asian shame, not wanting to blow up in public. And brought them to a sushi restaurant next to an AMC. Gave them the whole lowdown. Complete silence. They were just like, you can just feel the tension of like, what is he even saying right now? Drop out of school, acting, like, yeah. And they all just nodded their heads, like, okay, cool. Got home, then a little more. I think throughout the week, more conversation, a little more stuff like, you're being silly, like, what the fuck? Like, essentially the energy of like, you're fucking ruining your life. What are you talking about? Yeah. Somehow in that conversation, we got to the point where I was like, cool, I'll still stay in college. I'll stay in community college online at Georgia Perimeter. But I want to move to Chicago. So I'll take online classes, but I'll move to Chicago, live with Lolo and Lola, which means grandma and grandpa, and in the burbs, and commute to Chicago. Still take class and take class in Second City. And I was 20 years old at the time. So I did that. Parents' relationship was really rough for like the first 3 years, especially my mom, because she really felt like, one, I feel terrible at that time, wasted a lot of money. I didn't have a loan. They put credit cards in my college. That's a 1.5 year tuition out of state that my mom just fronted, blew that down the drain. I was taking class in Chicago, and then my mom would always ask me every conversation every week, and it was like, hey, are you done with this? Like, are you done with this phase? And she kept almost like condescending, or like, this phase will pass. And it was like, that really put a lot of tension on us. It was very weird. I think maybe like 3 or 4 years in, I was working my way up through Second City and the kind of the scene. Got hired by Second City to perform with their BizCo. They have like Torco. They had Mainstay, PTC, and they had another thing called BizCo, which was like a big thing where a lot of the people from different companies, they wouldn't make a lot of money doing live theater, like the touring stuff, which is crazy. but they would make money doing bizco, which is more like corporate events, or doing
Sure.
shooting a lot of shorts. So Second City would act as an agency, create training videos or like ad campaigns for companies. So I got hired by that, which is a huge deal. The first one I got hired for was a Steve Carell kind of bit. It was me playing Michael Scott in a training video, but Gilbert, or my name was Darby. So I played that kind of archetype.
Sure.
And I kind of did kind of even a censure. Yeah, I was in a censure training videos, I think, or like some kind of company like that, consulting company, where I like played the like Michael Scott character in his office parody of their training. And I was making money there. I was touring with Stir Friday Night, a really big Asian American group out in Chicago. I was doing multiple like shows with Second City in terms of like student shows. Like basically my schedule's packed with just performing and still doing bar shows at night. And my parents came one year to see a bunch of the stuff for like a family thing, like a Thanksgiving or Christmas. And they went to go see a bunch of my shows. They came after they left Chicago. They went back to Atlanta. They called me individually, not planned, and they said, "Oh, we get it."
That's a nice feeling.
So
That's a nice moment.
Yeah, they get it. And then from there on, it was like I think them seeing their son, something also like immigrant parents, they don't really understand the concept of like you can be like they love entertainment media. They see even people like me on camera, but I don't think that for them it connects with like my child could be actor or in entertainment and make a living off of that. But at that point, I think they just saw, I think for them, even just seeing the crowds packed out like theaters and people were like laughing at me every time I came on, or I think that like visual like connection for them was like, oh my God, he knows what he's doing.
He's doing
he's actually
yeah.
He's good at this. People are laughing at my son. I thought he was going to embarrass himself. So they both said we get it. And especially my mom became a stage mom at that point, was like, you have to move to LA. So that's awesome. Kind of, and she started sending me acting like classes. I'm like, Jesus Christ, like relax. Like you got to take it seriously. So then I moved out of Chicago after my time there, probably 5 years in. It was one of those crossroads. Like, what do I want to do? Do I want to be on the Second City main stage, which all the greats like Belushi and XYZ, like newer people, Sam Richardson, Tim Robinson, and follow that path. And I was like 24 at the time, 25. Most of those people, unless you're a killer at a younger age, you're like around your 30s, really, like early 30s. Like it's a lot of like time. You gotta put your time in there.
Oh yeah.
And if anything, and it's like, do I want to be on SNL? Like, I don't know. Like, I had to audition for it, and people were auditioning with like showcases all the time in Chicago, IO, Second City, in front of Lauren and like the casting crew there. And I was like, I love it, but I don't know if I want to do that. I think I just want to do it like Steve Carell does and do like Steve. It's crazy. Steve Carell is truly my comp.
It sounds like
I love that guy's career.
Yeah.
So much, and also like seeing Superbad was such a big influence. Like Jonah Hill was like that really helped. The fat. Oh, you don't have to be a model to be successful. So yeah, So I decided 25 I'm just gonna move to LA, just take that risk, move to LA, found a 1 month lease somewhere, and basically figured it out from there. Lived in a garage for about a year on an air mattress that was deflated, and then and they kind of went from there. Acting, auditions, CBS Showcase, met Bobby Lee and company, started TigerBelly, the podcast. That's what really opened a lot of avenues. Now producing a couple of production companies, starting a couple stuff we talked about privately, some other projects. So like,
which I'd love to eventually see the light of day. So some of my favorite stuff is stuff that we've done together that's still out, still kind of under wraps right now. We've only got about a minute and a half left.
Oh wow! I know. You should have asked me that question. What a dumb question.
So I want to get into some deep stuff with you, but first, with the remaining time. But first, one more ad read. 39-minute conversations also brought to you by Long Metal Straws. Do you have a long flight ahead of you that you're very nervous about now that mask mandates are a thing of the past? Let's like say you're going to a destination wedding and you really want to go because you love your friends and you're also a dangerously anxious person. Do you want to stay? Do you want to take your mask off? Don't want to take your mask off to just stay hydrated enough to keep you alive, but not so hydrated you have to use the airplane bathroom? Long Metal Straws. You're getting married in a month, man.
And I will be honest, Brian, I am surprised you are coming.
I'm a little surprised I'm coming too.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I wanted
to so bad. Yeah,
you'll be fine. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's Hawaii. You're gonna be chill. It's gonna be chill, dude. Enjoy it. Don't feel anxiety. I want you to be blessed out there.
I would love to not be blessed. I mean, I would love to not be blessed. I would love to not feel anxiety and be blessed. So that would be ideal.
You will feel that there.
So with less than a minute, I have to ask the question: do you think soulmates are real?
I had this conversation with Cindy, my fiance, who you know very well. No.
Why not?
I think a lot of friends. I think you can search for people, the perfect person. At a certain point, I think you gotta just. Here's the thing. I guess what is soul? You have to find what a soulmate is. Is that like the person you're supposed? Like, what does that mean to you? Is that the perfect person, or does soulmate mean? Because like,
Your meeting has ended. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to 39-Minute Conversations, hosted and produced by Brian T. Arnold. Music by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. If you like what you heard, please subscribe and tune in for new episodes, and don't forget to rate and review. If you didn't like what you heard, please don't do any of that. That's okay too. Thank you, and we'll see you next time. Stay safe and be well.